exciting segment to talk about today. We want to talk about health and well-being and how Pensacola is a unique and exciting place to talk about those things. We have Lynne from Wild Roots. We are going to have a bar segment where we eat beach pops and try some of their green drinks and experience some of the exciting nutritional things that she's learned about over the years and on her incredible journey. But first, I want to ask her a little bit about the genesis of beach pops and then Wild Roots and what drew you to Pensacola Beach, because that's such an interesting experience.
Well, I came here from the Washington, D.C. area. I had friends, actually a partner of mine from D.C. had relocated here and came down on just a quick visit, saw the beach, and absolutely fell in love with it. At that time, I was actually recovering from liver disease, which I'd gotten from prescription medications, a blood pressure medication, and I needed a place to just stress-free and just kind of relax and try and get my act together again. And the energy here is just so drawing. It's just amazing.
I just find that really incredible. I mean, I find the beach really healing, and you look out on the Gulf and it's just, it does something for your soul, and it's so good. And I also find it intriguing, we were talking about this earlier, that from your health perspective, it was trying to become well that made you sick. And that's when you started thinking about health differently.
Absolutely. Yeah, when you get caught up in this conundrum, really, of one drug gets side effects and another drug to handle those side effects.
Yeah.
And you end up in this state of thinking you're well, but you're not. And until you restore your health, you really don't realize how unhealthy you were. And so nutrition, that is what helped me. And given that it's 80% of our health, it's really key in terms of what we feed our body.
But it was a journey to get to that place, am I right? Because you came from a corporate background, you realized that you weren't getting better the way that the traditional Western medicine was trying to treat you. So what kind of made you change your perspective? Well,
it was actually even more complicated than that, in that medicine didn't even diagnose what was causing my problem.
Wow.
So it was through the process that I put in place. I was a consultant, and I treated my illness as a consulting project with a problem to be solved.
Okay.
And I addressed it that way. I did my own research. I looked at outcomes, and I was the one who, at the end of the day, realized that the only thing left was blood pressure medication, presented that to my doctor, who then affirmed it could be, and then we went from there, and that was kind of my checkout with allopathic medicine at that point, honestly.
And I think you really bring up a good point of being a consultant for your own personal health and being proactive. Many people know my story. I had cancer in 2007, and I had seen 3 surgeons before I was actually diagnosed, starting at the time of when I was 16, when the lump first showed up in my hand, and they all said it was nothing. Don't worry about it, it's no big deal. You'll be fine. We don't know what it is, but it's not going to be a big deal. So when it was diagnosed and you call the Cancer Treatment Centers of America and they say, ooh, we don't even treat that, it was the scariest thing in the world to know that there were only 4 hospitals in the country that were going to take your case. You're going to have to find the best of the best. You have to research and fight to get to that referral and get in to see that, research scientist. So it really is being proactive, recognizing, okay, you've prescribed me these things, but I'm getting worse, or now I have all of these looming symptoms and things that are starting because of that. And I think that's a wonderful point to bring up. You really need to call into question, and if you don't like the answer that you're getting, go to a new doctor, or find, research and find out more and be proactive in your own personal health.
Absolutely.
And Jessica, you're a huge, proponent of health through nutrition. What made you, was it your cancer scare, or what brought you to that path?
Sure, absolutely. I think because I was a athlete and healthy and already made all these really healthy life choices for myself. My mom would say, this doesn't make any sense. How does she get cancer when she already drinks plenty of water, eats really healthy foods, exercises regularly, lives a very healthy life, and yet here's the person that gets diagnosed with cancer. And so it was just those things coming up and the recognition of the food choices that we make. I've always said that you don't really need anything down the aisles of the store. Everything you need in the grocery store is around the outer ring.
Absolutely.
And that is the only way that I shop, because anything that comes in a box is processed, and you really don't need any of those things in the middle aisles of the store. But that was absolutely the catalyst for it. I was lucky enough when I was diagnosed. I had just graduated. I was diagnosed 2 weeks after I graduated college. And so I, for the first time, was out of school and found healing, you know, through the beach as well. I lived on Navarre Beach that summer, and literally every morning Emma and I would get up and we'd put on our bathing suits and we'd go sit at the beach until, you know, lunchtime, and then we'd go back to the house, and I had duct tape and a bag wrapped around my arm through all the surgical processes, and we'd be snorkeling, and I have my arm out of the water, but there was no way I was going to let us stop, you know, let that stop us. But the water definitely had healing properties for me, and moving away from Pensacola in 2008, moving to Portland, Oregon, and being so far away from our beach, it only took about 8 months for me to recognize, like, I need to be close to the water, and what I found in that. So kind of all of those different things brought me back to Pensacola in 2008. Even though I was only gone for a very short period of time, I recognized that I needed to be close to the water, that I love the energy and the vibrancy of this city, and I wanted to be a part of its growth, and that, you know, making healthy choices through diet and exercise for my own personal wellness was only going to benefit my child and benefit my family and benefit those around me by making good choices. So,
and you bring up an interesting point, because once I was well and decided, through all the information I had amassed through my research, it was devastating but very, very driving for me to do something about nutrition, and starting it with children, because children are the most impressionable. And you've got to get those habits in, and those tastes. Kids that come into our shop who don't know what a particular fruit is or a particular vegetable is, it's sad. We've become so disconnected from our food source.
Absolutely.
And I really wanted to give back to this community, because it allowed me to heal here, and to do it in a way that would spearhead for children.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then it's just evolved from there.
That's awesome.
That is such a beautiful sentiment, that this community gave you healing, and you wanted to give this healing back to the community. And that just creates even more symbiosis of the fact that we have a community that has that vibrancy that Jessica mentioned. When I go to the beach, especially on a clear day like we have had recently, you feel like everything that happens is a gift. I mean, do you guys feel that?
Oh, definitely. I go there just to detox from work, you know, and rejuvenate for the next few days I have coming up. It just, my mind completely washes away.
Honestly, just that drive over the bridge, it's an
That's
attitude
enough for it,
adjustment right there.
Agreed.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely. And then I make that drive every single day for work. And so driving out, I love living you know, in East Hill, and I don't really mind the drive too terribly bad, even though the traffic on the bridge can be hectic. But crossing that bridge and seeing the water, and just for taking that moment to really appreciate the fact that people in the rest of the country spend the entire year working to save enough money to come here for 1 week. And we get to, on an afternoon that we can push away from our desk, just Katie and I'll, if we, you know, hey, what do you, oh, nothing? Oh my goodness, okay. We're gonna go to the beach for an hour and a half and just sit and blab.
Exactly.
And it's so wonderful to be able to do that, but you really, you know, you don't recognize it unless you do stop and smell the roses or the suntan oil, as it may be.
You guys know that I've been training for a marathon.
Yes.
So I've been going on my long runs out on Fort Pickens Road. I ran 17 miles recently.
Oh my
And
God.
when you're
That's crazy.
running that time, which is 3.5 hours, you're really getting to experience everything in like a much more intense way, and I love that.
Why do you choose to run out on the beach as opposed to any of the other trails in town?
Good question, Jessica. No, I love it, even though, I mean, people are like, there's no shade, you realize that, right? But it's so worth it, because you get this like long stretch, so it's very meditative. Especially at Fort Pickens, you get that beautiful Gulf, you can see the Sound, and then you go through that kind of like a more of a pine, like scrub oak area, where there's, you know, osprey, and then you go to the fort, and I run along that wall, and you can see the pass. I mean, it's just so healing. Is really the right word for it. So speaking of that healing, you know, that's all very ambiance and almost spiritual, but one of the real technical or biological things that you bring is you guys are all organic. So you don't use those pesticides, and we've talked about how one of the reasons people have food allergies because you guys cater to paleo, to gluten-free, to all kinds of people who have different dietary needs. You guys carry that, and because it's pesticide free. So you were telling me about where you get your products. Tell me a little bit more about that and who you serve.
I have 3 major distributors, and I use distributors rather than local, simply because I need year-round access. I have a menu that I have to source to, and it's not based on seasonal food. So although that would be one business concept, that is not mine. And so I choose to use distributors for all my produce, my fruit, my veggies. I use Global Organics. They're a Florida-based company. And then I also, for my meats, Albert's Organics, and they also for the cheeses. And then other things I'll get from United Naturals. But it's important for us when people come in that we have what they came in for.
And you get that sense of even in December you can have a burst of tropicalness with one of those beach pops. I love it. So, you know, I think we're about to wrap up, but did I hear there were some brown smoothies we were going to have? Ooh. Can we have a brown smoothie?
I think we need to try some of that.
Hook us up with a brown smoothie. We'll have one sip so everybody can see how it's going. You guys, Wild Roots, it's out at the beach. What's the address?
It's 5 Via de Luna. We're right across from the Hilton. And we do have a website with all of our menus from the beach pops as well as Wild Roots. And it is www.wildrootsorganicfoods.com.
Okay, this is amazing. Delicious. You need to go see Lynne at Wild Roots. Enjoy the beach, enjoy the healing food, enjoy the healing atmosphere. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. Jessica, thanks for sharing your journey, and we'll be right back.